What's going on, guys? So as you can see, we got a new intercooler core. The previous intercooler, I wasn't too entirely happy about how we did this, for the turbocharge pipe. Didn't really care for how that worked out, but we're kind of limited with room the way the turbo is placed. This intercooler, I was seeing probably about 75 to 80 degree increase from start to finish on the track. So I went ahead and went with a Vibrant 18 by 12 by 6 inch thick core. This is a massively thick core. It's not as long as the old Garrett core, but is much thicker. This one I believe is right around 3.75 inches, if I remember right, which just under 4 inch actually. So this one is just under 4 inches thick, but this core was only rated for about 950 to 1,000 horsepower, and we've been exceeding that for the past couple years. We're roughly around 1,300 horsepower, 1,200 horsepower, around there. And this core is capable of handling 1,300 horsepower. So I got some end tanks on the way from Powerhouse Racing out of Texas. They had some pre-made end tanks that are 6 by 12 inch end tanks, so that'll save me a lot of time, a lot of headache from having to make up some end tanks for it. Once I get the end tanks in, then we can get them strapped to the core on both sides, and then get this strapped down to the turbo, and hopefully we can get it to right about here, and hopefully that'll work out. Right now it's just mocked up in there for placement. Don't mind my roll of paper towels here. It's kind of keeping it from leaning back and smacking the radiator. So yeah, let's hope this works out in our favor and turns out good. So next step to do is get the end tanks, get them mocked up on there, and take it from there. I know this side of the end tank, I'm probably just going to go ahead and weld a 3.5 inch 90 off the end tank, and it's just going to go directly into the upper intercooler pipe, which goes up and through. So, and then this side obviously is going to be a 3 inch from here to the end tank. Let's get the end tanks on, and let's get this bad boy built up. Okay, I got the end tanks today. Got them somewhat mocked up. This might be tricky on the turbo side. We got to go from here to here, but it's offset. See if I put it like this, that's the offset that I got, so I can't go directly in. It's just, that's a pretty short distance, so I'm gonna have to do a contraption here where it comes up like this, and then go right into the end tank here. So that's how that's going to work out. This side's going to be super easy. This side's going to be really easy. We're just going to go 90 off of the end tank directly into the upper intercooler pipe. So that'll be pretty easy to do. Like I said, the end tanks are just mocked up on there right now. These end tanks are not quite 12 inches, but that leaves us a big channel to weld, have a good fat weld on the core, which will work out fairly decent. But yeah, there's not much more to say other than you need to get these end tanks welded up to the core and then start mocking up piping. So once we get all that done, then it should turn out pretty good. So let's get to it.
I'm going to need the finger protector for this.
Pretty good so far.
I think keeps it. I never ran my welder this high.
No?
No, not this high anyway.
Big old thick core, man. She's Big Bertha.
You grab that piece and or the other piece and put it underneath that corner. Since the core is not square.
Whatever. You and your chintzy fucking table here.
Hey, it works for the space I've got.
Weld my intercooler.
I've got almost.
Alright, so we got one end tank welded up. Actually turned out really good. Nate knocked it out of the park with his welding. Looks really good. So now on to the next one. It's funny because we just did get done welding this not even a minute or two ago, and I could rest my hand on this. It's warm, but it's not hot, so this intercooler definitely soaks up a lot of heat, so should work out really good.
It's interesting that they have these pinch lines where they actually did the bend. So they held it here and then they held it here and then they folded it.
I think that's a marking because how they scribed it there too.
But if you look at how in depth it or how embedded it is, it looks like that's their fold point.
Yeah, it's pretty thick aluminum, so it's pretty thick stuff. So I'm sure they got a clamp on it really good to get that bend. But yeah, that's turning out pretty good. So now just got to get the other tank. We're letting the torch cool down. The torch gets really hot. It's not a water cooled torch, so. But yep, on to the next one. That side, yeah. All right, we got both end tanks welded up. Everything turned out pretty decent, so not too bad. We got the holes cut out for the piping. So next step is to get it back on the car, get it mocked up, and then get the intercooler pipes ran. This one's going to be super easy because that's going to go to the upper intercooler pipe, so it's just going to 90 straight off like I talked about earlier. This one, it's going to be a little tricky. We're going to have to do some cheater bends and stuff to get to the turbo, but that'll just take some time. Shouldn't have to, you know, mess around with it too much, but yeah, that's the next step. Get it back on the car and see where we're at. All right, so we got one pipe mocked up. I think that turned out pretty good. Pretty happy with how that turned out for the upper intercooler pipe. Next, I need to figure out this contraption. I got a couple of my buddies, Nate, as you guys know, and my buddy Hi Tran with RevTech Motorworks. He's gonna come over and give me his eyeball on how to make this pipe, since we're offset and it's kind of funky to get over to this side. So I don't call myself a fabricator by any means. I mean, I could do small stuff and everything, but when it comes to fabrication, I leave it up to, you know, the pros like Hi Tran and other fabricators. So other than that, coming along pretty good. We just need to figure out how we're gonna do this, and then once we get that into the end tank and get all the piping all tacked up, we'll get this side tacked up, and then we'll pull the intercooler back off and weld the tubings or the pipes all together and finish this thing up, and then make some mounts. I got to weld on threaded bung here for the top one, and then down below, you know, it's gonna be kind of hard to see, but there's a bar right here, a horseshoe bar that comes to the front. I'm gonna do some nut certs into this bar, and I'm gonna have some tabs on the bottom side to mount it there. So once we do that, then the next step will be to I'll have to cut some out of my bumper to fit this intercooler, because this intercooler is over 2 inches thicker than the older one. So that shouldn't be too bad. We're cruising right along, so getting pretty excited that this is coming together. So hopefully this intercooler does something cool for me. I mean, if it just drops intake temps, I'm happy with that. If it picks up a little bit of power, I'm happy with that as well. But it's something that needed to be done, and something that I needed to do for the past few years. So, but we're trucking right along, so let's get the rest of this finished up. All right, well, we got the piping all done. I didn't record any of the fabrication part of it, just because we were having a pretty hard struggle trying to get this one done with the alpha lock and everything. It was kind of tricky getting that up in there, but we got it to work. Most of the tricky part was just because of the offset of the intercooler to the turbo. So that was definitely tricky to do. We couldn't, like I said earlier, we couldn't come up straight into it just because there was no room to get any kind of bend, and when you're dealing with 3-inch pipe, there's no margin for error, so just not enough room. But anyway, huge shout out to my buddy Nate and my buddy Hy Tran that came over and helped fabricate these tubes. Nate did all the welding, and Hy was able to come up with this contraption, and it worked out really well. So super stoked about that. Just got a couple more things I got to do to button things up. I got to do some trimming on the bumper, since this one's pushed out a little bit further than the old one was. That shouldn't be too big of a deal, but yep. Let's hope this thing works out for me. We're gonna be running the car here in a couple weeks, and we're gonna be able to see some results. So okay, so I got the bumper all trimmed. I knew this was gonna be an issue with the space, you know, because the core is actually, the length of it is not nearly as long as the old one. So my plan of attack on this, and I've already thought about this before I actually put this intercooler in, that I was gonna build some like fake panels, some fake end tanks that went across. So piece of aluminum here, show you how it would look. So basically that's how that would look. So I need to get a couple of these pieces of aluminum cut out, and then decide how I'm going to mount these, if I want to weld it to the end tank or not. But yeah, that's the next step. All right, so we got it all finished up. It's all wrapped up. Everything's buttoned back up. Bumper's back on. All trimmed. Got my panels on. Those turned out really good. I'm super happy with how everything turned out. So the next step to do is to take this bad boy out to the track here in a couple weeks. I think it's May 8th that we're going to go out and do some testing at our local track at Firebird Raceway. It's just going to be a test and tune day, and I think they got midnight drags that evening as well. Super curious to see how well this intercooler does. I've had a few of my friends tell me that with their smaller 4-inch cores that they were seeing, you know, a 5 psi pressure drop, and then when they moved over to the 6-inch core, the same one that I have, they only see a 1 psi pressure drop. So, and they were only running about 45 pounds of boost. Now mind you, I'm 64 up to 70 pounds of boost. It really makes me wonder how much pressure drop the old core had. My main focus on doing this intercooler was to get the intake temps down, as I was seeing quite a bit of increase from start to finish with the old core. We were just outflowing that core. It's an 8-year-old intercooler. It definitely served its purpose, and now we got the big 6-inch core in there. So super excited to see what this thing's gonna do for me. I mean, if it picks up power, picks up boost, great. But my main objective with this thing was to drop the intake temps down a little bit more, so that way I could put the timing back into it on the big end of the track. Anyway, so yeah, that's going to be the next video, is us out at the track testing this thing. So that should be here in a couple weeks. So watch out for that video upload, and we will see you then. Don't forget to like, subscribe if you haven't subscribed already. I mean, if you made it this far and you're not subscribed, I don't know what you're doing. So, yeah, like, subscribe, comment down below, and we will see you at the next video.